What is going on, everyone? Welcome to BP Insights. So let's get into it. So Andrew Tate, Piers Morgan, round 3. It's interesting what topics. First of all, it's interesting that Piers Morgan decided to, or that Andrew Tate let Piers Morgan interview him a third time. It makes you kind of wonder what the thinking there is for both of these guys. Did Piers Morgan just want to try to get another big viewed video? Did Andrew Tate want to Andrew Tate just want to do a podcast with I don't know. Did Andrew Tate, I guess, was he thinking about a big viewed video, I guess, too? I guess I don't really know Andrew Tate's motivation why he would do it a third time, because I don't think, especially the way, Morgan was kind of coming after him, not really in a disrespectful way, but, kind of borderlining on it. He was really just questioning him hard, not really, being almost kind of hostile to him. So, the way that first interview went, I know the second interview went smoother, but you think that the way the first interview went, that, a third time around probably was just not going to happen. But, here we go. We got it. Jay, you gotta love Andrew Tate. Says what he means what he says. That's what he says about Donald Trump. But the same is true for him. This guy that really just, he knows who he is. He's built up confidence in talking about a variety of different topics through becoming competent. That's the thing. He talks about, he talks about women a lot, but part of the reason why he does is because he really understands, he was able to study and really understand their nature, working around them in the that webcam industry. So that was part of it. There's just, when you have something like that, you can really learn about a lot about, people, women. Running a business, you really learn a lot about people. Working in a place where people will come in frequently, or a place where, or working somewhere, working around a lot of women, you understand, you'll learn female nature, and you learn how to, work with people, learn a lot about people. But yeah, Andrew Tate, he's had a lot of good interviews. He said a number of the one with James English really stands out to me. The one from 2 years ago. I think that one was a good representation of, Andrew Tate being motivational, giving his take on women, also, and then just kind of telling his life story. So I think that's why that one, to me, may be my favorite, because, Mama's House was a pretty good one too, but I think James English was the best representation of, motivation, kind of purpose why we're here, insightfulness on women, the webcam industry, kind of his upbringing, sprinkling a little bit about fighting, not really as much about his father, his brother, but I think a lot of the topics that interest me, and a lot of the information I wanted to hear about Andrew Tate's life, that one with James English was really insightful. But yeah, I really do a lot of times enjoy just listening to a podcast, especially as a podcast I'm super interested in. That's a great feeling when a new podcast drops that you're looking forward to. It's kind of like around the NFL draft time when Chris Sims drops his NFL draft rankings, and then I know a lot of diehard Andrew Tate fans are, every time he drops a podcast, that's a must watch, that's a must see thing, that podcast that he dropped on that given day. That is, must see, must watch, click right away, whatever. terminology you want to use for whatever way you want to describe when you watch something quickly. So, but yeah, Andrew Tate and Piers Morgan. That's it's an interesting pairing. I've kind of discussed the problem I've had with Piers Morgan is, like, he's a guy that just kind of, I call it, I guess this is kind of this term's been around, but he's kind of a walking on eggshells kind of guy. And what I mean by that is he wants to act like he's the guy that'll, talk about everything. He's uncensored. He's not, I guess, always politically correct, but he's a guy who, he wants to. Why I say walking on eggshells is a guy that doesn't want to make. He talks about everything, but he also doesn't want to make enemies either. Like, he does not want to be too far one way, or he does not want to be too kind of against the woke agenda. He does not want to piss people off. So that's kind of my take on Piers Morgan. He's a guy that, he's kind of the classic. Sometimes you'll meet people where you say, I don't necessarily like him, but I don't dislike him. I think that's kind of that's the ultimate way I would describe Piers Morgan. I don't really dislike him, but I don't necessarily like him. Like, I'm not a huge fan of his. But yeah, I think he's a smart guy. I think, he's built up an audience. He's a guy that's, like I said, pretty smart. Seems to be somewhat likable. Seems like he's a guy that's pretty knowledgeable on a variety of different topics, and he's a guy that can argue. He's a guy that's, like other people have said, a guy that thinks he wins every debate just by talking loudly and loudly, quickly. A guy that thinks he wins a lot of debates like that. But I don't mind him. I would say, but not the biggest fan overall. Yeah, I really want to get the Tucker Carlson Andrew Tate interview. I really enjoyed that one. Andrew Tate, Tucker Carlson. I think America needs a Joe Rogan Donald Trump, or a Joe Rogan Andrew Tate interview. I think that would, I think Joe Rogan Andrew Tate interview would be awesome, because I think there's a lot of fans of Joe Rogan who are kind of on the fence with Andrew Tate. And actually not even on the fence. They don't really like him just because primarily of what they've heard about him. So I think Joe Rogan on Andrew Tate, I think it would be a podcast that the people who have opinions against Andrew Tate that are not really backed up by them, like, sitting down and listening to Andrew Tate, they're more just kind of reactions and feelings of him based on what they've heard. I think that would give a lot of those people would sit down and listen to that Joe Rogan interview. And as likable as Andrew Tate is, and the way he can talk and can kind of articulate his thoughts, I think him on Joe Rogan would be a really special interview. I think it'd be fun, it'd be entertaining, I think it'd be insightful. I think what question, I just initially think over and over, like, what questions would he ask? What would be some of the main what would be a question that's not obvious? Okay, there'd probably be, what's a couple of obvious questions Joe Rogan would ask Andrew Tate? Probably, I think definitely, would ask about, obviously, what prison was like. That's been asked a number of times, but I think he probably would just ask it just because he would want to hear, maybe kind of a different take or some different insight of him in prison, kind of different information. So I'm sure he'd ask that, but I think the questions about women, his takes on women, would be interesting with Joe Rogan. because Joe Rogan came out and said, there was an interview, and Rogan said that if he would have led with the male self-improvement stuff, he probably would have not got some of the backlash. But I can't remember. I'm sure Andrew Tate argues this. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think that he even agreed. I think he did agree with that. Don't quote me. He did agree that if he would have led, or he said something along the lines of, if I would have led with the male self-improvement stuff, it probably would have been harder to really get the reach. Because that's the thing with a lot of guys that have built, like him, that have built a big audience, a big following from men, talking about stuff like dating and talking about women and female nature and controversial takes on women. It's the way to garner up a huge attention for men, just because it's all, you think about it, that's one thing that all straight men have in common. Not everyone, because that's the thing, if you're starting a football talk channel, obviously there's a limit on your viewers, because not every male or female is likes football, cares about football. Even if they like football, not everyone likes it enough to sit down and listen to talk about it. So that's kind of the thing with Andrew Tate, is leading with the women thing, is because it's all, every straight male on earth is, talking to, dealing with, approaching, dating women. For every straight male on earth is inevitable, unless they just want to go completely, monk mode, not interact with women. But then that's just, even those guys still listen to things about women too, because you got to think, if you're one of those guys that just goes completely against talking to women, then what? Then it's probably because you are, you're like demonizing them, because you've, in a way, you've kind of, like, you might be a case of a guy that's idolized them so long that now you're demonizing them, and now you just don't want to talk to them at all. So, I guess the main point, Andrew Tate led with the stuff about women, gained a lot of attention from men. That attention he's used to garner and build up a loyal following. And bottom line, that would probably be a likely question that Joe Rogan would ask him, and that'd be very interesting. But I don't know, I shouldn't just sit here and talk about hypothetical questions Joe Rogan would ask Andrew Tate. I'll just keep reiterating. I think, Joe Rogan, Andrew Tate is exactly what I think, I don't know if I'd say is exactly what America needs right now, but I think it's one thing. It's a podcast where there's so many people are dying to see it. You talk about things where people click right away. Talk about podcasts where people click right away. That's one podcast. I would click on it so fast. Even if I was in the middle of doing something important, I would probably click on that. Say if I was a meeting at work, I would click on that and just play that out loud. I wouldn't even give a shit what if someone called me out for it. That's just something that's just something you gotta watch. I mean, you gotta watch. But that was, I remember it was like Brendan Schaub asked Joe Rogan about having Andrew Tate on, and he said kind of what I said. It would be a conversation, wouldn't it? Or he said something along those lines, and then Andrew Tate's been asked about it, and he said, he's like, why not? So Andrew Tate, Joe Rogan, they're not opposed to it, but I think it's one of those things. Rogan, he really gets guys on that he's super interested in. So to me, Andrew Tate's just not a guy that he's like super interested in, I think. So I think that's why, that's what's partly holding it back, is since he's not like super interested in having Tate on. I don't think that, I think that's what's holding it back a little bit. But yeah, I can go on and on about talking about this all day because, even though this actually, people don't even want to hear this, sometimes talking about hypothetical things that could happen is interesting. But yeah, maybe we'll get this. And yeah, you feel like, because someone posted a comment on YouTube, I thought it was dead on. Joe Rogan has like 2 aces up his sleeve, being able to interview Donald Trump, Joe Rogan, or interview Donald Trump, and or Andrew Tate. But yeah, I think Patrick Bet-David challenged him about having Donald Trump on. But so I think that, Joe Rogan, you got to respect that he's not going for clicks. He's generally just having people on that he's interested in. But you feel like, when you have a YouTube channel, I remember the Nelk Boys talked about this before. Sometimes it's not even about just, sometimes it's not just about doing things that you want to do just because you enjoy. Sometimes you got to give the people what they want. Like the Nelk Boys were doing pranks a lot of times because of their fans. A lot of YouTubers, sometimes myself included, sometimes you got to make videos that people want as opposed to what you want to do. I think that's what's key to a healthy YouTube channel a lot of times, is doing stuff you want to do, but at the same time doing stuff that'll interest others. Because I know, you got to respect Joe Rogan doesn't want to just become the clickbait guy. But sometimes it is okay to be the clickbait guy, and sometimes it is just, is clutch when you just get that key guest on. But yeah, Tucker Carlson, Andrew Tate interview was awesome. I think Tucker Carlson, even though he didn't really understand some of the takes Andrew Tate's had on women, and he didn't understand OnlyFans and stuff like that. But you gotta like with Tucker Carlson that he came out and said, what's bad about Andrew Tate? Saying to men, respect yourself, accomplish things, be better every day, go to work hard every day, consistently, go to the gym every day. Like, what's wrong about preaching what's wrong about preaching that message? I think that was Tucker Carlson's whole thing is, what is the issue with preaching that message? But yeah. I'm going to wrap with that, guys. Thanks for tuning in.